Think about the times you've held back out of fear of seeming inadequate or the worry of not being accepted. Have you ever wondered how far you could have gone if you had allowed yourself to be who you truly are? What if that hidden side of you is exactly what's missing for you to achieve what you've always wanted? By hiding these parts of ourselves, we distance ourselves from our true essence, and it's in the space between who we are and what we show that the greatest potential for transformation lies. Everyone has a hidden side, one we prefer to keep away from others. Carl Jung referred to this aspect as the shadow, meaning the traits we repress or deny in ourselves. Sometimes, these are emotions or behaviors we deem inappropriate, but the shadow also carries untapped talents and potential. It's like a part of us that stays silent, waiting for the chance to be acknowledged. The formation of the shadow begins in childhood, when we learn to follow social rules and repress what isn't accepted. These norms often shape who we appear to be, while we hide what we believe won't be accepted. Over time, this process distances us from certain aspects of our personality, creating a gap between who we are and who we show to the world. However, exploring the shadow doesn't mean diving into negativity. On the contrary, it can be the key to unlocking a part of ourselves that has much to offer. Instead of fearing it, seeing it as an opportunity for growth can lead us to a more authentic and fulfilling life, where our hidden potential is finally realized. From childhood, we are taught to behave according to social and family expectations. This starts, for example, when we are corrected for expressing anger or crying in public. Over time, these corrections cause certain emotions and behaviors to be repressed. What was once a natural expression becomes hidden and stored deep within us, fueling the formation of the shadow. As the years go by, we learn to control and hide these impulses because we want to be accepted and loved. The shadow is built from this process of repression, and the more we push into it, the larger and denser it becomes. However, this doesn't mean those aspects disappear. They remain, subtly shaping our lives and sometimes causing harm. But this shadow isn't just a collection of negative traits. Often, skills and desires that could strengthen us are also suppressed. The sooner we recognize this process, the more we can bring out the repressed parts that can help us grow, making us more complete and aligned with who we truly are. When ignored, the shadow can manifest in destructive ways. Self-sabotaging behaviors, outbursts of anger, and feelings of guilt are often signs that something repressed is trying to surface. When we fail to recognize these aspects, they take control in unexpected moments, pushing us away from others and from ourselves. However, within this same shadow lies immense creative power. Aspects we deny can be transformed into fuel for change and personal growth. Anger, for example, can become assertiveness. Fear can turn into a source of courage. It all depends on how we choose to handle this hidden part. It's not just a problem to be solved, but a source of energy that, when properly channeled, can lead to incredible achievements. The key is recognizing that we are not beings divided between light and darkness, but a fusion of these two parts. It's in accepting this duality that we find the possibility of integrating the deepest aspects of ourselves, transforming our shadows into strengths that guide us on a path of self-discovery and fulfillment. Recognizing the shadow is just the first step. The real challenge lies in integrating it into conscious life. According to Jung, ignoring or rejecting the shadow only strengthens it, making it harder to control. But when we allow these repressed aspects to surface consciously, they can be channeled into personal growth. It's like looking into a mirror and seeing not just the idealized reflection, but everything we've avoided facing. Integrating the shadow is not a simple process, but it's deeply liberating. When we accept our imperfections, we gain more control over them. Repressed anger, when brought to light, can become a source of positive energy. Insecurity can pave the way for authenticity. It's a process of fully knowing yourself, and by doing so, achieving an inner peace that once seemed distant. Accepting these forgotten parts of ourselves can unlock a creativity that has been dormant. People who integrate their shadows often report feeling freer, more confident in their decisions, and more connected to who they truly are. Integration isn't about fixing something, but about becoming whole, using all of who we are to live more fully. Jung expanded the concept of the shadow beyond the individual, suggesting that there is also a collective shadow. Just as we repress aspects of ourselves, entire societies repress ideas, values, and behaviors they deem unacceptable. These cultural shadows can manifest in destructive ways, such as prejudice, intolerance, and even wars. They are parts of our collective identity that we try to ignore, but they emerge in times of crisis. These repressed elements don't simply disappear because society rejects them. On the contrary, they grow in the shadows and re-emerge when least expected, causing tension and conflict. Often, the prejudice we see in everyday life is a result of a society that hasn't integrated its own shadows. Just as with individuals, the collective shadow can also be transformed if there's a willingness to face it and learn from it. For Jung, confronting the collective shadow is essential for human progress. Instead of repeating cycles of violence and exclusion, societies could acknowledge these dark aspects and work to integrate them constructively. This requires courage, both individually and collectively, but the result would be a more conscious and united humanity. The shadow doesn't just affect individuals, it also impacts relationships. Often, we project onto others the aspects of ourselves that we cannot accept. This phenomenon, known as projection, can lead to conflicts and misunderstandings as we see in others what we repress in ourselves. For example, a person who represses their own aggressiveness might feel an exaggerated irritation when dealing with someone more assertive, without realizing they are actually facing their own shadow. This dynamic is common in close relationships, such as between partners, friends, and family members. How often do small disagreements turn into big conflicts without anyone knowing exactly why? Many times, it's the shadow working behind the scenes. Projection is an unconscious way of avoiding dealing with what's repressed within us. But by recognizing it, we can begin to transform these relationships. Instead of seeing the other person as a problem, the process of shadow integration invites us to look inward and recognize what we are projecting. This creates space for healthier and more authentic relationships, where people can see and accept each other on a deeper level. Acknowledging the shadow in relationships is a pathway to building more genuine connections with less conflict. Integrating the shadow into daily life requires constant self-awareness. The first step is recognizing intense emotions like anger, fear, or envy that arise in everyday situations. These emotions can be valuable clues to identifying what's being repressed. Instead of ignoring or suppressing them, it's important to accept them as legitimate parts of who we are, allowing them to guide us toward a deeper understanding of ourselves. Once we identify these feelings, the next step is to consciously work on inner growth. This can be done through practices like meditation, therapy, or even daily reflection. The goal is to prevent these repressed impulses from dominating our actions and, instead, channel them into something positive. By doing this, we begin to integrate these hidden parts, giving them a controlled and balanced voice in our lives. This journey of integration is transformative, but it requires patience. It's not about instant change, but a continuous process of self-acceptance and self-knowledge. With each step, we come closer to living a full and authentic life where every part of us, even those we once feared, can contribute to our well-being and growth. The question that remains is, are you willing to look within and awaken what you've always avoided?